Young and the Restless Spoilers Unmasking the Shadows, a deadly game of betrayal and survival in the labyrinthine corridors of power and deceit where every whispered secret can topple empires and every betrayal can rewrite destinies. Two unlikely allies emerge to confront the darkness that had long haunted their lives. Nick and Daniel, bonded by a mutual desire for truth and justice, had forged a formidable partnership, one that would soon plunge them into a vortex of treachery and moral ambiguity. A chance eavesdropping the fateful day began like any other. In a dimly lit hallway near the heart of a sprawling estate, Nick and Daniel inadvertently stumbled upon a conversation that would shatter their already fragile sense of trust. Huddled behind a slightly ajar door, they listened as the resonant voices of Victor and Michael filled the space. Their words, laced with cold calculation and sinister intent, revealed the unthinkable. Victor, a man long considered a pillar of influence, was orchestrating a heinous crime. Nick's blood ran cold. The man he once revered as a father figure was implicated in the abduction, a kidnapping that had shaken the very foundations of their world. His emotions surged in a tumult of anger and despair, yet, curiously, a complex loyalty tethered him to his father. Despite the moral chasm that now yawned between them, Nick was determined not to let his father face the full wrath of the law. In his conflicted heart, a dangerous resolve began to take shape, to change his father's ways, to steer him away from the precipice of total moral decay. The dark puppeteer, as the truth unfurled before them, another, even more sinister figure emerged from the shadows, Michael. With the chilling calm of a seasoned puppeteer, Michael was revealed to be the mastermind behind a deadly game that defied all rationality. His current scheme was as grotesque as it was horrifying. He had taken Phyllis and Sharon hostage, coercing them into a brutal contest of survival. In his twisted vision, the only path to freedom was paved with betrayal and bloodshed, forcing the two women to confront their most primal instincts by turning on each other. The very notion of orchestrating a scenario where human life was reduced to a pitiful struggle for survival was beyond reprehensible. To Nick and Daniel, this was not merely a crime. It was an abomination. Their shared revulsion fused their resolve, and they vowed to put an end to Michael's cruel game once and for all. The reckoning in the control room, with the stakes higher than ever, Nick and Daniel raced against time to the nerve center of Michael's operation, the control room. Every second was a reminder of the precious lives hanging in the balance. In that claustrophobic chamber, surrounded by blinking monitors and tangled wires that seemed to pulse with the lives of the captives, they cornered Michael. The air was thick with tension as the duo demanded that Michael remove his figurative mask and expose the full extent of his guilt. Under the unyielding pressure, Michael's facade began to crumble. With a mix of defiance and resignation, he finally admitted that he was indeed the mastermind behind the diabolical scheme. His confession, however, was not a full unveiling of the truth. He deliberately omitted one crucial detail: Victor's involvement. Michael's unwavering loyalty to his enigmatic benefactor prevented him from implicating Victor, leaving behind a trail of ambiguity that would haunt the investigation. The aftermath. Where are Phyllis and Sharon? With Michael in custody and his confession echoing in the sterile confines of the control room, one grim question remained unanswered. What had become of Phyllis and Sharon? As the authorities moved in to secure Michael and begin piecing together the fragments of a monstrous plot, the whereabouts of the two victims became the most pressing mystery of all. Reports began to surface of an elaborate escape. The cunning and resourcefulness that Michael had intended to suppress in his captives now served as their salvation. In a desperate bid for freedom, Phyllis and Sharon had managed to slip away from their confines, vanishing into the sprawling urban landscape. Their disappearance was as baffling as it was infuriating. How could two individuals, so ensnared in the twisted web of Michael's design, simply vanish without a trace? The tug-of-war of loyalties. Nick's internal turmoil grew more profound with each passing moment. His admiration for his father was now inextricably entangled with a deep sense of betrayal. The fact that Victor had orchestrated the kidnapping, thereby indirectly sanctioning Michael's monstrous plan, weighed heavily on him. Yet, in a twist of fate, Nick's resolve to reform his father was both a personal crusade and a desperate attempt to avert further chaos. How could he reconcile the man he once idolized with the villain now implicated in the depths of criminal conspiracy? Meanwhile, Daniel emerged as a steadfast pillar of support, his analytical mind and unwavering determination providing the stability needed to navigate the turbulent moral landscape. Together, they represented the dual forces of passion and reason, working in tandem to dismantle a system that thrived on subterfuge and exploitation. The wider conspiracy and future implications. As the investigation unfolded, the tangled web of deceit revealed that Michael's plot was merely the tip of a much larger iceberg. Behind the orchestrated chaos lay layers of manipulation, with influential figures pulling strings from the shadows. The revelation of Victor's involvement ignited a firestorm of public outrage and media frenzy. Whispers of a broader conspiracy, reaching into the highest echelons of power, began to circulate. The ramifications were far-reaching. Allies turned into adversaries, and trust became a luxury few could afford. Nick's internal conflict, pitting filial loyalty against a thirst for justice, became a microcosm of the larger battle between right and wrong that now engulfed their world. As more details emerged about the clandestine operations and the true extent of the corruption, it became clear that the struggle was far from over. A glimmer of hope in the darkness. Yet, amid the despair and chaos, there was a glimmer of hope. The survival of Phyllis and Sharon, though shrouded in uncertainty, symbolized the indomitable spirit of those oppressed by tyranny. Their escape hinted at the possibility of a counterattack, a future where the oppressed would rise against their captors. Nick and Daniel, driven by their personal demons and the need for redemption, vowed to find them. Their mission expanded beyond mere retribution. It was now about restoring balance and ensuring that the cycle of betrayal would not claim more innocent lives. The unfolding drama served as a stark reminder of the perils that lurk behind every power play and the lengths to which individuals will go to protect their own interests. In a world where alliances are transient and loyalties are tested at every turn, the struggle for truth becomes an arduous journey fraught with moral dilemmas and unforeseen consequences. Conclusion: the battle continues. In the end, the story of Nick and Daniel is one of courage, defiance, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Their actions have exposed the dark underbelly of a system built on deception, where even the closest bonds can be twisted by the lure of power. As Michael's confession reverberates through the corridors of authority and the mysterious disappearance of Phyllis and Sharon leaves a trail of unanswered questions, the stakes have never been higher. The road ahead is uncertain. The shadow of Victor's influence looms large, and the unresolved fate of the kidnapped women serves as a constant reminder that evil rarely dies quietly. Nick, torn between the desire to save his father from ruin and the imperative to bring the true culprits to justice, must now navigate a precarious path that could either lead to redemption or further damnation. As the investigation continues, the world watches with bated breath. The quest for truth, set against a backdrop of moral ambiguity and treacherous alliances, is a battle that will test the limits of human resilience. In the face of overwhelming darkness, the determination to uncover the truth and restore justice burns brighter than ever, a beacon of hope in a realm where every revelation carries the promise of both salvation and destruction. The story of this deadly game of survival, betrayal, and hidden loyalties is far from over. With every new twist, the lines between hero and villain blur, challenging our perceptions and forcing us to confront the harsh reality that sometimes the fight for justice demands sacrifices that echo long into the future. In the wake of a night filled with betrayal and secrets laid bare, Daniel and Nick found themselves caught in an emotional whirlwind. Their hearts pounded with a mix of anger, grief, and an overwhelming sense of urgency as they grappled with the fate of Phyllis and Sharon, two souls ensnared in a diabolical game of life and death. Every second that ticked by only deepened their anxiety, urging them to confront the source of the darkness that had ensnared their lives. A cry for accountability. Daniel's eyes, usually calm and analytical, now burned with determination. Alongside Nick, he was desperate for Victor to finally acknowledge his guilt. The duo had painstakingly pieced together the puzzle that revealed Victor's involvement, a truth too monstrous to be concealed any longer. They could no longer tolerate the web of deceit that allowed such heinous acts to persist. In unison, they demanded that Victor admit what he had done, to stop hiding behind a veil of lies and manipulation. Their voices trembled with both righteous anger and fear for the lives hanging in the balance. "We won't let you bury the truth any longer," Nick declared fiercely, his voice echoing in the dimly lit corridors of power. "Stop lying to us, let the truth be known, for Phyllis, for Sharon, and for everyone who has suffered because of this." The weeping seer, Lauren's prophecy. In a quiet corner of the unfolding chaos, Lauren's sobs pierced the tense atmosphere. Tears streamed down her face as she confronted the inevitable. She had long predicted that the cycle of deceit and betrayal would culminate in a moment like this, where the truth could no longer be hidden behind false promises and half-truths. Lauren's heart ached not only for the victims but also for Michael, whose misguided path had led him into a moral quagmire from which there seemed to be no escape. Yet, her tears were not of sympathy for him. Instead, they were laden with sorrow and a hardened resolve. "Michael, you've strayed so far from the path of redemption," she wept, her voice a blend of pity and reproach. "I knew this day would come. I never imagined it would end like this. Your choices have doomed you. I cannot save you. You are the architect of your own downfall, the kidnapper who brought this calamity upon us all." Her words reverberated through the halls, a stark reminder of the cost of betrayal. Lauren's painful admission underscored a hard truth: redemption was a luxury Michael could no longer afford. His relentless pursuit of a twisted ambition had severed any ties to salvation. The reckoning, a confrontation in the shadows. As the tension reached a fever pitch, the confrontation escalated. Nick, unable to contain the seething anger within him, closed the distance between himself and Michael. In a moment that seemed to freeze time, he seized Michael by the collar, pulling him close so that the chill of impending truth was palpable. With the ferocity of a man betrayed by those he once trusted, Nick demanded, "Speak the truth, Michael. No more lies. Tell us everything. Where is Victor in all of this? And what have you done to Phyllis and Sharon?" Michael's eyes darted nervously as the reality of his situation bore down on him. The force of Nick's grip was a physical manifestation of the moral reckoning that had been building for far too long. With the world watching and every secret on the line, Michael found himself at a crossroads, forced to peel away the layers of deception that had shielded him until now. I am the one responsible," he stuttered, his voice barely a whisper under the intensity of Nick's glare. "I orchestrated everything, the abduction, the manipulations, but I did not mention Victor's involvement." His confession, fragmented and reluctant, left an unsettling gap, a missing piece that implicated Victor, a man who had long been considered untouchable. The uncertain fate of Victor, even as Michael's confession sent shockwaves through the assembly, a nagging question remained unaddressed. What about Victor? Would he allow Michael to remain imprisoned, or would he shoulder some responsibility for the carnage unleashed by his orders? The ambiguity of his role gnawed at everyone present. Nick's mind whirled with conflicting emotions. His deep-seated loyalty to a father he once admired clashed violently with the reality of Victor's machinations. In the midst of this turmoil, Daniel's voice broke through the clamor, steady and resolute. "We need Victor to come clean," he insisted, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. "If we are to find justice for Phyllis and Sharon, for every soul caught in this web of betrayal, then there can be no more hiding. Victor, you must take responsibility for your actions, for the orders you gave." The fight for survival across town. The stakes of this dark game of survival were manifesting in a more immediate and visceral manner. Phyllis and Sharon, despite the psychological torture inflicted upon them, were fighting tooth and nail to reclaim their lives. Their struggle was not just against their captor, Michael, but against the despair that sought to engulf them. Each passing moment was a battle, a desperate attempt to defy the fate that had been cruelly scripted for them. Locked in a silent, internal war, they maneuvered within the confines of their prison, searching for any opportunity to break free. Their determination was palpable, a testament to the indomitable human spirit that refuses to surrender even in the face of overwhelming odds. Every bruise, every drop of sweat, and every ounce of pain was a step toward reclaiming the autonomy that had been brutally ripped away. A web of deceit and the looming shadows of betrayal. The revelation of Michael's role and his subsequent confession were only part of a larger, more intricate tapestry of deceit that threatened to consume everyone involved. Behind every lie lay a deeper conspiracy, one that stretched its dark tendrils into the highest echelons of power. Victor's shadow loomed large, a specter that cast doubt and despair over the entire ordeal. His reluctance to accept responsibility was not merely a personal failing but a symbol of a corrupt system where power and influence allowed the guilty to evade the full measure of justice. As the interrogation intensified and Nick's grip on Michael tightened, the air seemed to crackle with the tension of unspoken truths. Daniel's steady presence was a silent reminder that reason could still prevail amidst chaos. Yet, the question of Victor's complicity remained a festering wound, a secret that, if left uncovered, would continue to haunt every corner of their existence. The path forward, justice, redemption, and the unyielding quest for truth in that critical moment, as Michael's confession echoed through the cold, sterile room, a fragile hope began to emerge. The possibility of unraveling the entire conspiracy and rescuing Phyllis and Sharon rested on a delicate balance between truth and deceit. Nick and Daniel knew that unless Victor stepped forward and admitted his part in the nightmare, the quest for justice would remain incomplete. They envisioned a future where accountability was not optional, where every betrayal was met with an unwavering demand for truth. For Nick, this was not just about retribution, it was a personal crusade, a battle to reclaim the honor of a family tarnished by scandal and bloodshed. Daniel, ever the voice of reason, understood that the stakes extended beyond personal vendettas. This was a fight for the very soul of their community, a stand against a system that allowed the wicked to prosper. In the coming days, the pressure would mount. The media would seize upon every detail, and public opinion would be polarized between those demanding swift justice and those clinging to the remnants of a once-respected legacy. Meanwhile, the investigation would dig deeper, unraveling connections that even the most astute observers had failed to notice. The tangled alliances, the secret pacts, and the cold, calculated decisions of those in power would all come under scrutiny. The final confrontation, the stage was set for a final confrontation, a moment when every hidden truth would be laid bare and every secret forced into the light. Nick's resolve hardened with each passing second. With Michael still struggling in his grasp, he leaned in closer, his voice low and fierce. "You will tell us everything," he said, his words a promise of retribution. "You will reveal every detail until there is nothing left hidden. We deserve the truth, and Phyllis and Sharon deserve to know that justice will prevail." In that charged atmosphere, Michael's defenses began to crumble. His earlier bravado had dissolved into the cold reality of his situation. The truth, long obscured by layers of manipulation, now stood on the precipice of exposure. Yet, even as his confession grew more detailed, the question of Victor's involvement loomed large, a question that would dictate the future of everyone entangled in this tragic narrative. A glimpse of hope amid the darkness. As the confrontation unfolded, the resilience of Phyllis and Sharon became a beacon of hope. Their silent struggle, marked by moments of defiance and the sheer will to survive, inspired everyone around them. In the midst of the chaos, their determination symbolized the possibility of a new beginning, a future where truth and justice could finally triumph over corruption and deceit. Their plight was a rallying cry to all those who had suffered at the hands of the powerful, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit could rise above adversity. Every cry for help, every act of defiance, and every whispered plea for freedom added to the chorus demanding change. Conclusion: the unyielding quest for truth in this tangled saga of betrayal, loss, and desperate hope. Daniel and Nick emerged as beacons of integrity in a world clouded by corruption. Their relentless pursuit of the truth was not merely an act of vengeance but a commitment to restoring balance and justice. As they faced the dual challenges of confronting Michael's confession and forcing Victor to come clean, they carried the weight of countless lives on their shoulders. The journey ahead promised to be arduous. With the fates of Phyllis and Sharon still uncertain and Victor's true role shrouded in ambiguity, the stakes had never been higher. Yet, in every heart that beat with the desire for justice, there was an unspoken promise that the darkness would eventually give way to light. The battle for truth was far from over, and every step forward was a testament to the resilience of those determined to reclaim their lives. In the final analysis, this ordeal was more than just a tale of kidnapping and betrayal. It was a story of shattered loyalties, of hearts torn between love and duty, and of the unwavering quest for redemption in the face of overwhelming odds. As Nick tightened his grip on Michael and Daniel's steady gaze bore into the heart of deception, the call for accountability ran.